Finnick here, and welcome to another Chatterfox review. And since I mentioned it in my last review, I'm fairly certain that all of you know what movie we're going to be talking about today. But for those of you who don't, we're going to be looking at Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And there's a lot to mention about this one, but we're going to start where we always do, with the character lineup. And since you guys are already familiar with both Puss and Kitty Softpaws, who are once again being voiced by Antonio Banderas and Selma Hayek respectively, we're going to start by talking about the newest addition to the protagonists, Perrito. And yes, I already know I'm going to fluff up this name, but Perrito is voiced by Harvey Guillen, and he's an adorable little doggo with a really messed up backstory. But despite his traumatic past, he always looks towards the positive, and because of that, he kind of comes off as more of the hero in the story than anyone else. I also want to point out that I very much admire this mindset in a character, and if there were more people in the world who thought like this character does, I have a feeling that the world would be a lot nicer of a place. Now, I don't really know where to put the next characters I want to talk about, because while they are sort of antagonistic, they feel more like a group of comic reliefs. I am, of course, talking about Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and they are voiced by Florence Pugh as Goldilocks, Olivia Colman as Mama Bear, Ray Winston as Papa Bear, and Samson Kao as Baby Bear. And while these four are kind of a driving force in the movie, it's their side story that really shines. Some of the most emotional moments in the movie actually involve these four characters, but it's usually not in a way that you would expect. Anyways, moving on from the adorable to the downright evil, the primary antagonist of this movie is Jack Horner, voiced by John Mulaney, and holy fluff is this guy messed up. He's depicted as a murderous psychopath whose one ambition in life is to control all magic in the world and take it away from everyone else. And while their death scenes aren't exactly graphic, he does flat out murder dozens of people throughout the movie. And to make all of it worse, this character is essentially a spoiled rich kid, since it's revealed in the movie that when he was little, his family owned and operated a very successful baking company that he would one day inherit. Anyways, moving along from this particularly sad excuse for a human, I want to talk about what I consider to be the true antagonist of this movie, death. And I don't mean metaphorically or rhetorically or poetically or theoretically or any other fancy way. I mean death, straight up, who, by the way, is voiced by Wagner Moura. And while some may think that he's just the secondary antagonist, I'd argue he is the main driving force of the plotline because of what he is and what he represents. And yeah, since I know I'm inevitably gonna be asked what I think about him, I think he's hot, but his muzzle's a little too long for my taste. Seriously, the length of his snoot makes it look like one of his parents was a borzoi. Also, I kind of want to point out that the melody he always whistles when he shows up in the movie is hands down the most iconic sound in this entire film. But anyways, that's it for the characters. Now I want to move on to the plotline. And just like I always do, I'm going to try to avoid giving too many spoilers. So here we go. The movie opens with Puss hosting a party in the town of Del Mar, complete with all the loud music and leche that you would expect from the heroic outlaw. The party eventually ends with a bang, and it wakes up a sleeping giant that Puss then has to fight. And while he does manage to beat the enormous attacker, he also winds up getting crushed by a bell, which leads to him waking up in the office of a barber surgeon. The barber/doctor explains to Puss that he has burned through 8 of his 9 lives, and that if he dies one more time, it's over. The doctor suggests that Puss hang up his boots and retire from adventuring, and while Puss doesn't initially consider this an option, an absolutely terrifying encounter leads to Puss losing his signature sword and eventually fleeing into the arms of a cat fancier by the name of Mama Luna. And it's in his retirement here that Puss meets Perrito, the adorably derpy little teal-eyed mutt who wants to be a therapy dog. Puss's retirement is fairly short-lived though, since after what seems like only a couple weeks, Goldilocks shows up with the Three Bears crime family and they plan on hiring Puss to help with a heist. It's through them that he learns that the map to the legendary wishing star is in the possession of none other than Jack Horner. Goldie and the Three Bears eventually leave Mama Luna's house without recognizing Puss. The heroic outlaw quickly decides to go and steal the map for himself so he can replace his lost lives. It's during this heist that Puss is reunited with Kitty Softpaws, and it becomes fairly apparent that the two feisty felines are no longer on good terms because of what happened in Santa Coloma. And it's at this point that I'm going to stop talking about the plot, because if I go any further, it's actually going to give a lot of spoilers. So now we're going to go into my personal thoughts on the movie, and first and foremost, while there are thankfully nowhere near as many sex jokes, there was one thing about the movie that I found to be pretty jarring when I first noticed it. And that's the fact that there are two distinctly different animation styles for this movie, and it switches between the two animation styles depending on whether or not it's a normal scene or a action scene. Personally, it was a little jarring for me to initially see them switch from one art and animation style to another, but it's one of those things that I actually quickly got used to, and I actually kinda like it. Other than that though, this is an absolutely amazing film. I love the way that all of the characters seem to mesh together so well, and if you happen to be good at finding context clues, you can actually follow the side stories of the various groups pretty easily. All in all, I'm going to give Puss in Boots: The Last Wish a 10 out of 10 paws, because while the animation changes might be jarring for some, that minor flaw is quickly outweighed by the absolutely amazing cast of characters, the stunning set design, and the unbelievable story. DreamWorks absolutely outdid themselves this time, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if there's another Puss in Boots in the works. For now though, that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you want to let me know what you think, leave a comment down below. I love reading your guys' comments. But anyways, until next time, bye!
Oh yeah, I want to show our patrons some love too, because they're awesome. Their contributions help us to afford all the neat stuff we use to record. So thank you. And if you want to become a patron too, you can click the link down in the description. You'd really be helping the channel out, and you'd get a couple nifty goodies too. Anyways, if you made it this far in the video, then yay, you're amazing. By the way, subscribe. Please don't make a foxy bag.